Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for December the 5th of 2019. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, you can find the hottest gaming news that you need to know right here on a brand new episode of the Jampack Report. You can find it on YouTube, you can find it on podcast services around the world. Wherever you want to watch or listen, I appreciate you doing so, and if you're new, welcome on in. But today we have some very big news in the Xbox realm because it looks like Project Lockheart is not dead. Of course, that is the entry-level-ish console for the next generation of Xboxes that was supposedly put on ice earlier this year, but now news sources from Kotaku are confirming that it is still on the slate for release sometime in the future. Then, the Nintendo Switch is finally coming to China on December the 10th. Sony has been accused of plagiarism. What? And then the Outlast Trials is bringing 4-player co-op into the horror franchise. A Plague Tale 2 is reportedly in development, and Star Wars Battlefront 2 Celebration Edition is officially coming out after it was leaked earlier in the day yesterday. And on top of that, some new content is coming your way for those that are big Star Wars fans. And again, Star Wars Battlefront 2, the game that just won't stop. Should have died with the microtransactions, but nope, powered on through that, now full of content, supposedly a pretty healthy player base. But that is our lineup for today's show, and without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. First off, according to sources from Kotaku, Microsoft is still planning a cheaper diskless next-generation Xbox. In June, Microsoft announced Project Scarlet, a new iteration of the Xbox that the company said would set a new bar for console power, speed, and performance. What Microsoft did not say is that it is also working on a lower-cost, diskless version of Scarlet, codenamed Lockhart, according to 4 people briefed on the company's plans. If those names sound familiar, that's because they've been floating around for a while. The earliest rumors about Microsoft's next-gen roadmap, circa 2018, suggested that Project Scarlet would consist of 2 Xbox models, the high-performance Anaconda and the lower-end Lockhart. In June, however, Microsoft announced that Scarlet was a single high-end console, which led to speculation and then press reports that Lockhart had been canceled. We talked about it here on the show. But Kotaku has learned that Lockhart is, in fact, still in the works as a cheaper digital-only alternative to Scarlet, as the original rumors suggested. What we don't know, and what likely is not finalized yet, is how the pricing will shake out. But it's easiest to think of Anaconda as a successor to the Xbox One X and Lockhart as a successor to the Xbox One S, with a similar performance disparity. Game developers will be expected to support both Anaconda and Lockhart, which some are worried might hamper their ambitions for next-gen games in the coming years. When speaking to Kotaku, one game developer briefed on Lockhart analogized it to the PlayStation 4 Pro in terms of raw graphical power, although there are other key differences that might make up for that. Lockhart is said to have a solid-state drive like both Anaconda and Sony's upcoming PlayStation 5, which is expected to have a significant impact on loading times. Developers briefed on Lockhart also say it has a faster CPU than any current video game console, which could allow for higher frame rates, although there are other factors that might not become clear until the console is completely finalized, such as clock speed and cooling. Microsoft's ideal target performances are said to be 4K and 60 FPS on Anaconda and 1440p at 60 FPS on Lockhart. That does not mean that every single game on these consoles will live up to that performance, it's just the target that Microsoft is pushing devs to hit. Lockhart will also likely be heavily promoted with Microsoft's burgeoning xCloud streaming service and impressive Xbox Game Pass subscription, which will allow users to access a huge library of games, both big and small, including all new first-party games. Both of those services fit nicely with a diskless console, and Microsoft has already packaged Xbox Game Pass with the digital-only version of the Xbox One S, which launched earlier this year. The team is not officially talking about any of this. We do not comment on rumors or speculation, said a Microsoft spokesperson in an email to Kotaku last night. The people behind Xbox have been quiet about their next-gen plans in the months following Scarlett's announcement at E3, and over the past few months, some developers have grumbled to Kotaku about Microsoft's lack of communication. Many say they've already received development kits for PS5, codenamed Prospero, and images of those dev kits have been leaking all over the place. Scarlett development kits have been harder to come by, devs say, although most who are working on next-generation games have a rough idea of what kind of tech specs to target. For many months, rumors have swirled about the performance differences between Scarlett and the PlayStation 5, and pundits have speculated as to which console will be beefier. What's become clear based on our conversations with devs is that there is no straight answer to that question yet. Common consensus is that both consoles have roughly similar specs and that the biggest differences may lie in other factors like OS features or slight technical edges that Sony or Microsoft are keeping under wraps. The biggest and perhaps most important question is one that still has no final answer: how much will these things cost? Both companies, meanwhile, have been terrified of Google's entry into the video game space after rumors started circulating in early 2018 that the tech conglomerate was doing something big. Over the past couple of years, a number of developers have also remarked to me, says Jason Schreier, and that the staff at both PlayStation and Xbox would talk frequently and reactively about Google's plan, emphasizing each company's own response to streaming as a result. After the tepid launch of Stadia last month, however, the threat of Google appears to have been overstated, and the next generation of consoles will remain a battle between Sony and Microsoft and will be one of gaming's biggest stories in 2020. Now, this has gotten a lot of response from the community overall, and I will say that I understand where a lot of people are coming from when they say that the marketing team at Xbox has muddied things, when they say that Xbox releasing two consoles will confuse consumers. I agree that to some degree that will be a result, but you have to understand that the people that are watching this podcast, the people that are hardcore fans of the gaming community, that isn't the target audience for what Project Lockheart is. Instead, you have to consider the entry-level gamer. You have to consider somebody who might have a couple of extra moments here and there that might not even keep up with any gaming news. They just want to be able to sit down and play a game at night. That is the target demographic of Project Lockheart. On Twitter, I use the example of a parent buying their kid their first gaming console. Instead of going out and spending $500 on something that can play the newest games at 4K, 60 FPS or higher, and having this incredibly powerful machine, it might be a better investment in the short term to see if your kid enjoys this, and you could go out and get a $250 Project Lockheart, which isn't necessarily as good as the brand new thing on the market, but considering you can have Game Pass, considering you can have any other games you want to buy on the Xbox Marketplace, it seems like a pretty good entry point that shaves a lot of the price off of the top and allows you to pretty much get into the newest generation of hardware without breaking the bank if you don't really want to, and you don't need to shoot for that 4K 60 FPS. On top of that, it's also worth mentioning here that if the console itself is targeting 1440p at 60 FPS, a lot of people don't even have 4K monitors or TVs yet. I'm one of them. Now, of course, if I was to buy something, I would future-proof and buy the 4K model, but if you have no intention of upgrading to a new monitor or screen, then by all means, you really don't need the 4K 60 FPS, and you could settle for the cheaper next-gen Xbox. So again, this is according to sources from Kotaku, but very exciting to see that Lockhart is not dead, because I think that there's a big market for the cheaper models of the consoles, and we've seen that with the Xbox One S All Digital Edition being a big seller already on Black Friday around the world. In fact, it's doing very, very well, which is shocking to a lot of people. But something else that will do very well is, of course, the Nintendo Switch, which will finally launch in China on December the 10th, and it will come bundled with New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for around $300. As expected, Nintendo will officially launch the Switch console in China on December the 10th in partnership with Tencent. It will sell as a bundle for 2,099 yen, or of course, $298, with a copy of New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. In addition, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Super Mario Odyssey are now available to pre-order, and additional first-party games are being prepared for the China market later, Nico Partners analyst Daniel Ahmad wrote on Twitter. The console will officially be called the Tencent Nintendo Switch Official Mainland China version. It just rolls off the tongue, and will come with a 1-year warranty. Games will reportedly be priced around 299 yen, or around $42. There is no word yet on whether the cheaper Switch Lite will also arrive in China. On top of helping Nintendo build simplified Chinese language versions of games, Tencent will provide cloud services for the Switch Online service in China and modify the eShop to work with its widely used WeChat Pay system. China gaming is primarily done on PCs and mobile phones, so the launch of a new console is a big deal. We believe that Nintendo Switch will replace the PlayStation 4 as the market leader in China by 2022, when accounting for both legal and gray market sales, Ahmad said. However, Nintendo itself has been cautious about potential sales in China. Even if the launch does occur during the current fiscal year, we do not expect a significant impact on this year's business results, said President and CEO Shuntaro Furukawa last month. However, this is a very big deal, of course, because, number one, this is a collaboration with Tencent, which is becoming a global superpower in terms of entertainment media, whether it be gaming, whether it be film, whether it be any of the other, they pretty much got their fingers in everybody's pies, which is impressive to say the least. Also a bit worrisome for some, but I'm not really that concerned, because you have things like this, where this is a phenomenal consumer-focused approach to getting the Nintendo Switch into the Chinese market. And this is huge for Nintendo, because think about the success of the Nintendo Switch so far. Now take that success and put it into the perspective of the fact that they haven't even tapped into the Chinese market yet. And of course, a lot of people around the world play on the go. This is a system that simply allows that to happen, but also gives you the home console kind of setup. It's very impressive overall, and it's very exciting to see them finally getting into the Chinese market. Without a doubt, this is going to be very fruitful for Nintendo, I feel, unless for some reason it does not become widely adopted in the region. But I fully expect it to be a big hit when it launches in China on December the 10th. Of course, very exciting times for gaming around the world, but specifically in China, this is a very, very big deal. So, if you want one, go get one. Regardless of where you are, the Switch is pretty cool. However, Sony has pulled a PS4 ad after plagiarism claims. Sony has pulled a music video featuring PlayStation 4 titles after claims of plagiarism. The video, which has since been pulled by Sony, was released by Sony Interactive Entertainment Japan Asia. The promotional video featured Tanaka, who has worked with Bojo no Lyric no Boyami. Okay, according to Gamatsu. While the video featured clips from 16 game titles, it's the animation in between the clips which is being called into question. Animation website Katsuka created a video showing comparisons between animations and those shown in the PS4 video. And of course, you can pretty much clearly see that it's going to be something that is a bit questionable in the very least, because it's kind of like whenever you say, hey, I made this in high school, whenever you're in art class, and then you just traced over whatever somebody else had done previously. That's basically what you're seeing here, because they are ultimately pretty much identical, except for the original is much, much better. That's just my 2 cents on that one, though. So, as reported by DualShockers, the animation director behind the video is Kevin Bao, per an interview with Akiba Suten. Bao has been accused of plagiarizing a live with YouTube gaming animation before. Sony has yet to comment on the accusations. It is unknown at present whether the animations were made in-house or through freelancers, which many believe to be the case. And of course, you can see the original video below, courtesy of W Gaming on YouTube, if you did want to check out the full thing. But needless to say, this is a very bad look, and it's not Sony's fault, but I wanted to bring this up, as I do with anything that has to do with plagiarism, because I know that a lot of you out there might be going through school, or you might have opportunities at work where you say, man, I could go home 3 hours early tonight if I just used somebody else's X. I could just take some of the inspiration from somebody else's Y and put it into mine. No, just do your work. If you're not a good animator, come out clean. Move into a different field, whatever you need to do. It's never a good move to plagiarize. And on top of that, it's also a gray area when it comes to what is my work versus what is somebody else's work. What is taking inspiration from a project and making it my own, and simply stealing somebody's idea. And this is on that strange borderline of like, very well is probably considered plagiarism, just because, yes, it is different. But at the same time, wow, that's just really, really similar, like frame for frame, pretty much the exact same thing. That's whenever it gets a little dicey here, because you don't really like that look. So hopefully this all gets sorted out, and hopefully somebody learns a lesson from this big fumble. But now moving on to games, the Outlast Trials brings the horror series into the Cold War era, and surprisingly, it's not a VR game. They say it Destructwood. Where does Outlast go from here? For a while now, creator Red Barrels has been saying the next project is the first-person horror series. In the first-person horror series would be more of a sidestep, set in the same universe but not a sequel. After ample teasing, the studio has lifted the lid on the Outlast Trials, if only a tad. The game has optional 4-player co-op, and it's set right in the middle of the Cold War era. Players will face the horrors of the trials by themselves or cooperate with up to 3 other test subjects. Apart from the artwork, which suggests there will be plenty of night vision-related frights, that's kinda it. We don't have much to go on about the game, not even the release platforms, but Red Barrels is still in the early stages of production on the Outlast Trials, and according to co-founder David Chateauneuf, ooh, that's a big name, Chateauneuf, David Chateauneuf. They've now finished the proof of concept, and next up, content creation, variety, and gore. As much of the art suggests this will be a VR game, that's not the case. It's not VR. There is not a ton to say at this point, but I'm curious. The horror genre has been leaning hard into multiplayer as of late. Even Ari is getting into it again, and I can see why Outlast would too. And so again, this absolutely looks like something that would be a VR game with all these goggles and whatnot. I don't know about that, but glad to hear it's not. Not necessarily because VR wouldn't be good for Outlast, but quite frankly because I like to have something that, I can play without having to have a VR headset. But I do believe this is going to be pretty interesting, and co-op is something Outlast has never done before. Of course, if you have not played Outlast, by all means, you should dive into the first 2 games. Very impressive stuff there. But with the Outlast Trials, I think this is going to open things up. Of course, I think this is also wise because of the popularity of streaming in 2019 and going into 2020. That's whenever you begin to see, hey, we now have the opportunity to have 4 of the biggest streamers in the world playing our game at the same time and being scared and everybody seeing our... It's a big marketing push as well whenever you can make something that is optionally a cooperative experience. But on top of that, also make it compatible with the single-player experience because that's what Outlast has been in the past, and so it would be a shame to have one game devoted entirely to co-op. But excited to see what comes of this one. It seems like Trials alludes to the idea of having this kind of one-off experience every time you play, not necessarily following a narrative, more so just giant monster coming your way, escape kind of thing. But again, I suppose we will have to wait and see what Red Barrels has in store as they get deeper and deeper into development. But regardless, glad to see Outlast is not a VR game, and indeed, it is coming back. But also coming back is A Plague Tale, because A Plague Tale 2 is reportedly in development. The rumor comes from Xbox Squad, a French website that claims A Plague Tale Innocence developer Asobo Studio is working on the sequel, which is reportedly set for reveal in 2020 with a target release window of 2022. Pause. Don't announce your stuff that early. I don't need to wait 2 years for the Plague Tale sequel. Just put it out in like 6 months before, okay. But when contacted for comment, publisher Focus Home Interactive did not deny the rumor, instead saying it will talk about Asobo's next game when the right time comes. Here is the statement. Focus Home Interactive and Asobo are very proud of the critical and public reception of A Plague Tale Innocence and the sales. We are delighted to have received a solid number of awards and nominations, including for Best Narrative at the Game Awards next week. We want to pursue our efforts to make sure the game gets even more attention from players, and we will thus keep promoting that title as it deserves. Of course, we announced last year we are partnering with Asobo for a future project, with Asobo for a future project, but never confirmed if it was a sequel to Plague Tale or not, and we'll give more details on that title when the right time comes. A green light for A Plague Tale 2 does not come as much of a surprise, given A Plague Tale Innocence was a big success for Focus and Asobo when it launched in May 2019. Focus cited A Plague Tale in particular, as well as a role-playing game Greedfall, for contributing to an 80% increase in revenue in the latter half of the 2019-2020 fiscal year compared to the first 6 months. A Plague Tale managed to break into the top 10 games sold in the UK during its launch week. The game follows siblings Emika and Hugo, who are chased out of their family home in rural France by Inquisition soldiers. The player takes control of the older sibling, Emika, as you attempt to guide the children through hordes of flesh-eating rats to safety. It's not all cheese and wine in medieval France. This game was a really cool one. Of course, many people say this is the game with the rats. That's pretty much how people know the game, because the rats moved in kind of this giant mob formation, and you had to follow specific routes and stuff to get through them. But on top of that, also had a very cool story that took place during the Inquisition, and that's pretty neat in and of itself. But I am not surprised to see A Plague Tale 2. Of course, the game did well at reception with critics and fans alike, and I know a lot of people think this one is somewhat of a hidden gem for 2019 because it did come out at a time when a lot was going on, and it kind of hit, and although it did break into the top 10, a lot of people probably overlooked this one. So this could be a good game to dive into over your holiday break if you have time during the holidays, maybe whenever we have a bit of a gap in between the beginning of the year and February, March. That would be a good time to dive into the Plague Tale, or A Plague Tale Innocence, before A Plague Tale 2 becomes a reality. But finally, Star Wars Battlefront 2 Celebration Edition and the Rise of Skywalker content have been announced. Star Wars Battlefront 2 will soon be getting Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker content and a new Celebration Edition that includes all past and upcoming free game updates and a ton of new customization options. Revealed by EA, Star Wars Battlefront 2 Celebration Edition will be released digitally on PS4, Xbox One, and PC for $40 on December the 5th of 2019. Existing Battlefront 2 players can upgrade for a discounted price of $24.99, and this new Celebration Edition includes all of the following: the base game, including all past and upcoming free game updates as they release, more than 25 hero appearances, including 6 legendary appearances, plus 1 appearance each for Rey, Finn, and Kylo Ren, inspired by The Rise of Skywalker, coming December the 17th. More than 125 trooper and reinforcement appearances, more than 100 hero and trooper emotes and voice lines, and more than 70 hero and trooper victory poses. Of course, the very big deal is the Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker update, which is coming on the 17th. The Rise of Skywalker update will go live and brings with it the addition of the Infiltrator class Sith Trooper of the First Order, a new aerial reinforcement called First Order Jet Trooper, and a new gunner and spy unit for the Resistance that are new alien species from The Rise of Skywalker. New hero appearances for Finn, Rey, and Kylo Ren inspired by Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker will also be included in this edition, and of course, can be purchased separately with credits or crystals. On December the 20th, a brand new jungle planet that appeared in the last trailer for the upcoming conclusion of the Skywalker saga will be added. The new planet will be available in co-op and heroes versus villains mode and will put players on the side of the Resistance or First Order. And of course, then January's update brings BB-8, Capital Supremacy, and more. In January, they will bring the Capital Supremacy to the sequel era and will task players with either defending or bringing down the MC-85 of the Resistance or the Resurgent class Star Destroyer for the first nerds, a whole bunch of big nerds. These massive ships will be positioned above the new jungle planet and Jakku. Furthermore, BB-8 and BB-9E will be available as hero characters for the Resistance and First Order, respectively. Of course, the game originally came out in November of 2017, and in their review, they said Star Wars Battlefront 2 has a great feeling blaster, but its progression system makes firing them an unsatisfying grind. But that has since been fixed, and the game is apparently doing fairly well. Of course, EA has continuously supported it and even revamped the progression system, adding, of course, the ability to forego loot boxes pretty much altogether. But with these updates and planned ones for February and March, it does not look to be stopping that support anytime soon. And so I want to make it very clear here that a lot of people are hating on Star Wars Battlefront 2, and for good reason, because it had a very rough launch. But at the same time, it is worth considering just how much the game has come back, and on top of that, Electronic Arts knows that this is pretty much a game that can continually add new players because Star Wars is such a big entity in 2019. You have to think that instead of making a new game for each individual new movie or each individual new entity, whatever it might be, you can just update Star Wars Battlefront 2, throw in some new content, and boom, people keep coming back for more. On top of that, you can re-release the game and just put it back out on store shelves with the Celebration Edition as they are doing here for a lower price, get more people in playing the game, and on top of that, you can tie it in with a new movie. It's a fantastic move, and of course, I think that overall, from what I've played, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is a really, really good game. I played it on PC a bit in the latter part of 2018, early 2019. Fine game, good game even, since they fixed a lot of the issues that people were having. But again, if you do want the Celebration Edition, or if you want to check out the new content, that is all going to be coming out over the course of the next few weeks. Of course, the Celebration Edition launches on December the 5th of 2019 for $39.99 on the newest generation of consoles. But with that being said, that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed this one, drop me a like down below if you are watching on YouTube. But on top of that, if you are listening on a podcast service, thank you so much, and I will be back with you tomorrow for more of the hottest gaming news from around the industry. But until then, you guys have a phenomenal rest of your day. I will talk to you soon, and peace.